And may I request that the candidates please come to the front and take your seats.
How much? Okay, let me know so I can. Tell me so I can.
I like his reaction when you introduced me to him. It was cool.
Sorry, I think it just turned 11:30, which is the stuff. So,
Yeah, okay.
so just a couple minutes. Get started.
Your attendance here. I'd like to welcome the candidates and guests to the DoubleTree Hilton Carson. This is the Chamber of Commerce 2018 Candidates Forum, where we invite the candidates to provide the business community and voters an opportunity to learn about and compare candidate positions on public issues in a neutral setting. I want to thank our sponsors, Marathon Oil Company, Endeavor, the Whisper, Western States Petroleum Association, Phillips 66, SA Recycling, DoubleTree Hilton Carson. They are the food sponsors. And I also want to thank the StubHub for providing video coverage of this event. It'll be local video coverage. And I'd like to thank our volunteers for their dedication and support to organize this event. And in line with that, I'd like to thank the Governmental Affairs Committee of the Chamber. The moderator today is Professor Hamoud Salhi from Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. This is his second time he's helped us out, and he did a wonderful job at the last event at the university. And I know all the candidates have not arrived yet, but I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to participate in this forum. This event showcased the Carson Chamber of Commerce as an entity with the capability to bring issues before the business community, citizens, and voters of Carson so that they can formulate an unbiased decision in terms of the candidates' positions on issues. So the Carson Chamber is proud to provide this forum for the community. I'd like to turn over the program now to Dr. Salty, the moderator.
Thank you so much. This is a pleasure. And what I'll do is start with the rules and the format so the candidates know and you know how to proceed with this debate. There will be 2 minutes time limit for each candidate's opening statement. The purpose of this opening statement shall be for the candidate to list their priorities and to state why they are running for the office. Questions. The forum question will be, I will be presenting those questions. Questions must be on public issues and must be framed so all candidates can answer them. Personal or individually targeted questions or attack on any candidates will not be used. Answers to questions by candidate must be concise and must not include personal attacks or other candidates. There will be you'll have some cards for you to write your questions, and we'll have 2 people to collect them when you finish with them. The audience questions are to be written, to be more specific, on the 3x time blank cards provided by forum committee staff. Audience questions will be anonymous. All question cards will be reviewed to eliminate duplicate questions or questions that are inconsistent with these guidelines outlined by the Carson Chamber of Commerce and Endeavor. I will ask each selected question in the order it was received. All candidates will be given an opportunity to answer each question. A 2-minute time limit will be imposed for each candidate to answer. The moderator will rotate the order of responses from candidates. Candidate can pass if they do not wish to answer a given question. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to summarize their positions and to make their final comments. Candidates will be encouraged to stay longer once the forum concludes to speak with audience members who may have more questions. Something about the physical arrangements and logistics. The candidates are seated in alphabetical order in front of you. The timer person is seated in front and below the candidates. The timer person shall give each speaker a 30 seconds warning, meaning finish your thought, and then a stop signal, meaning stop now. This 30-second warning is a yellow card. The stop is a red card, and the ding of the bell. Campaign materials are permitted outside of the room. Large signs and placards will not be permitted inside this room. However, buttons and badges on clothing are permissible, but they shall not be distributed during the forum deliberations. No balloons allowed inside or outside the room. Professional technicians will broadcast the forum live via the internet. And personal videotaping and photography is prohibited. Those are the rules. Now we'll start with the question. I think you've seen the candidate pick up their order of giving their opening statement. The first person to speak is Donicia. And Donicia and all of you, you have 2 minutes. Please include in your statement your priorities and why you are running for the position.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Donicia Galls-Aldana. I am the current city clerk for the city of Carson, and I am running to retain my seat. I am running unopposed, but I felt it very necessary for me to attend today's meeting because it's important that you understand what your legislative body, your policymakers, and your implementers, such as the city clerk and the city treasurer, you know what it is they're doing, how they're advocating on your behalf. I like to use the moniker, I am your advocate in democracy. And what that means is it is my job as your city clerk to disseminate information to you. Like, for example, with the city charter, it was my duty to mail that proposed city charter to every registered voter in the city of Carson. I'm looking to make the city clerk's office a 24-hour department. What that means that you are able to access your city records, understand who are doing business in the city, know what's happening in the city without you having to come to City Hall to get that information. If you want it at 2 in the morning in your pajamas on your computer, you can access that information. I have been able in the past 3 years, in the past 2 years in the city clerk's office, been able to streamline a lot of the processes and make that my dream of being a 24-hour city clerk department come to fruition. Right now, you could access campaign finance records online, more contracts are visible online, and the minutes are being brought up to current as we speak. I am asking for your vote of confidence in this next election for another 4 years to continue the work that I've done in that office and to continue to be your advocate in democracy. I thank you for taking your time today, for coming to hear from us and to really understand what's happening on your behalf in democracy. Thank you. My name is Donicia Galls-Aldana.
Oh, can you please hold your applaud until the end of the questions? Appreciate it. This will save us some time. My next is Elida Santarina.
Oh, wait.
Elito.
Elito, okay. I'm number 3? All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 2 was not picked.
Oh, okay. All right, okay.
And you're taking away from your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the Carson Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this candidates forum, because this is an important meeting for all of us, so that I am given the opportunity to hear from you, and you are given the opportunity to hear from us. As a retired educator of Los Angeles Unified School District for more than 31 years, plus the fact that I am also connected as a resource teacher at Linwood Unified School District, that really tells you how much I care for our young people, as I have pledged to educate them. And having said that, I would like to let you know that as an incumbent council member here in the city of Carson, it is my solemn commitment to continue my service as a council member. Therefore, please consider the fact that in my years of service, which started in 2003, pat on the back, thank God, and with the help of the counseling or wisdom that I get from my wife, Anita, yours truly have never been involved in any kind of questionable matters that really hit Carson once in a while. And I'm very, very proud of that track record. And also the record of the fact that I am really, really cognizant of what I should do for our seniors, for our veterans, for our young people, for take care of women's issues, take care of the members of organized labor, take care of the priorities of the city in terms of helping our large businesses and small businesses, and make sure that this city continues to continue prioritizing our help for our young people. And I am highlighting that, being a retired teacher. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lito. Our next is Ramona Pimentel.
Good morning. I would like to thank the Carson Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum today. My name is Ramona Pimentel. I have lived in Carson for over 35 years. I own a local small business, and I have been married to my husband for 40 years. I have 2 children, Raymond and Aline, 8 grandchildren, and 1 great-granddaughter. My children went to the local schools and played at the local parks. I have spent many years volunteering for the Carson Boys and Girls Club, Dominguez Family Shelter, the YMCA, and coaching my children in their sports activities. My most recent volunteering effort was with the American Heart Association, the Little Hats, Big Hearts. The project was I crocheted 60 beanies for children with heart defects. I am currently sit on the Carson Planning Commission, previously served on the Environmental Commission. I was named Woman of the Year of the 64th Assembly District by Assemblyman Mike Gibson. I am vested and committed to the City of Carson. I attend all my Planning Commission meetings as well as City Council meetings, and I also went to every moratorium meeting. And my latest venture was attending the Charter City meetings and all the public hearings. I know I attend more meetings on this issue even more than some of the committee members themselves. This is why I believe I am the best candidate for the City of Carson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramona. Our next is Nafis Mohammed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Nafis Mohammed, and I am the youngest. I'm the youngest candidate to run for Carson City Council at the age of only 18 years old. I am running for Carson City Council because, first off, education is extremely important to me. I'm coming from Stanford University, where they taught me the value of education and how important it is to be able to learn stuff, and not only learn, but use your education for positive change in your communities. I am extremely vested in Carson. I've grown up here all my life, and I have so much family that also lives here. Including relatives like uncles and aunts and grandparents and my parents themselves and all my siblings. So we've all grown here, and it's really important for me to be able to represent my community and be a positive impact in it, especially among young people. I have worked with several state senators and city council members in the past couple of years, and I've even written state legislature myself to be passed on the Senate floor and debated. And that's important to me because I want young people and the general population to be invested in our goals, in our community, and in our government process. That's extremely important for me. I am running to increase educational opportunities in Carson. I'm running to increase our public safety, and I'm running to ultimately increase our urban development here in Carson and balance out a lot of the developmental projects that we have here in Carson. And ultimately, I just want to bring our community together as a whole and increase our participation in government. Thank you. My name is Nafis Mohammed.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Luis Diaz.
Good morning. Thank you all and the Chamber Endeavor for inviting us to this forum, Candidates Forum, this morning. My name is Luis Diaz. I'm a 30-year resident of Carson, and for the past 20 years I've served on various boards, committees, and commissions. I believe I'm the only candidate that has been appointed by 4 mayors as well as councils in respect to the appointees. I've served with due diligence in those committees, first as an environmental commissioner, and formerly for 10 years the Planning Commission, 9-member commission. I chaired that for the past 3 years, and proudly looked at each and every item that came before us, advocated for strong development projects that would help sustain work and good jobs, middle-class jobs, and again, looking not only for 1 year or 2 years, but looking for future sustainability 7-10 years down the road that is a good fit for the land uses here in our city. Been married for 40 years, helped raise 3 adult children here in Carson, and now with my wife's support, we're helping raise 5 grandchildren here in Carson. I mentioned to you about some of my civic duties. I'm also a homeowner president for the past 5 years, so I've given back to the community. I really care about the future of our city, our neighborhoods, our environment, and of course, not only small business, but the businesses that drive the tax revenue here for the city. We need to come together and bridge that gap. We need to make sure that there's harmony with business and local government and streamline some of the permitting process so that we can have a great balance here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Sherma Henderson.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Sharma Henderson. Thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate the invitation. I am running for Carson City Council because I love this city. There have been very many things that I've been able to enjoy that makes this city unique. It feels like a hometown, a small town within the larger metropolitan area. A little bit about myself, I grew up in South LA, and I grew up as an at-risk youth. I always tell people that I educated myself out of poverty. I took that concept a little bit far, but I enjoyed the process, and I worked very hard to be able to make a difference for myself, my siblings, and my family. I ended up in Carson about 12 years ago, and I started my work with the city through the Stroke Center. And that was a place that was very near and dear to my heart, and it still is. What I realized about the city is that although we have a lot of great things going on in the city, what the public sees outside of Carson and what many of the residents see is a lot of negativity. We have issues that need to be addressed that have been unaddressed. And there are people who, with the wealth of resources in this community, could work together to have those things addressed. I'm looking at creating creative revenue sources. We cannot continue to depend on the same things and the same funding that has always sustained us because it's not been sufficient. So I think having creative funding, using grant monies, using outside sources would be very helpful to our city. I also am looking at increasing public safety throughout the city and making sure that everyone feels safe in their homes and walking on the streets and feeling that their children are safe. Education is a priority for me. We are a college town. We don't act as such. We need to correct that. So there are many things that we could do to make our city better, but we have to stop fighting, we have to lock arms, we have to roll up our sleeves, and we have to work together. This is an awesome city. It's about time we act like it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jim Deere?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank all of you for taking your time today to come to this event because this is a way for you to learn more about the candidates. There are 9 candidates. There are 2 seats available, and you need to help elect or vote for the 2 best candidates that will serve you, the people of Carson, and the corporate citizens of Carson. It's not always that the voters get an opportunity like they have today. With me, you can have the best qualified candidate, and you can have the change that's needed at City Hall. That doesn't come around that often, so this is a great opportunity in this election. Tuesday, the 6th of November, could mean a very different city depending on who gets elected. So I want to encourage you as business people and residents of the city of Carson to think long and hard about who you want on the city council. People that have a track record, like myself, people who basically can tackle an issue successfully, like myself. and people that really have a voice of reason that can bring forward what we need in the City Hall. And that is myself as well. So I have a long history with the Carson Chamber of Commerce. In the 90s, I was very, very active with the Chamber before I got elected to political office in Carson. And so as a business community, you have to look at what's best for the Chamber, what's best for the membership. Certainly, having a friend like me on the City Council with a very loyal, consistent, reliable track record, as my own, is good for the Chamber. It's also excellent for the residents of the City of Carson, because the residents of Carson deserve the best. And quite frankly, I have greater experience in more areas than any of my opponents. They're fine individuals, but voting for me would be the best for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move to our main questions. I will start with my first question, and this will be addressed to Ramona Pimentel, and I will move to your left with each new questions. So this question is this: Measure M funds include local return dollars. And this is the question: how will you use this money to work on transportation projects here in Carson?
Okay, I would, by making sure that the revenue is fairly distributed throughout the city based on the priorities of the impact of the project for the entire city, not just to take care of pet projects or someone's neighborhood. That's where I would make sure that all of Carson street repairs are repaired at the right time. Maybe one on the north, one on the south, but not just everything up in the north is where I've seen this project going. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed Nafis is your next.
So I think that in order to ensure that the funds are used equally, is not just ensuring that the streets everywhere are taken care of all at once, but prioritizing certain streets. There are some streets that are more high usage, and obviously those need to be done. But also some of the smaller streets within our neighborhoods often get overlooked because they're not as used or they're not as prominent. They're tucked away in small corners, and I think that ensuring that those residents, because they're equally important, get proper street funding so that their streets are, correct and that they have safe places, because I think that's a huge part of public safety is our transportation. And if their streets have potholes and all sorts of things, and children run around in those streets, they play in those streets sometimes. So I think that definitely it's about prioritizing and ensuring that all of our streets are cared for, so that there is a total transportation upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherman Henderson.
So Carson stands to receive about $1 million in funds from Measure M. It sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't sufficient for what our needs are. We would have to have a multifaceted approach. We need to look at safety issues and make sure that we address any safety issues such as potholes, cracked sidewalks. I know I work a lot with people who are seniors and disabled populations. Some people aren't able to get safely across the street because of how the sidewalk doesn't have a lead in to go into the street. So there are things like that need to be prioritized. At the same time, we have issues with beautification. I know there are a lot of people who feel a certain way about not extending the beautification of Carson Street all the way to the other side of the city. So my thinking is we use the immediate funds to be able to make the urgent changes that need to be made as far as safety is concerned. And we don't stop there. We know that we have other issues that need to be addressed. There are some preventative things that need to be addressed, such as trees that are lifting up sidewalks and such. So we'd have a multifaceted approach, deal with safety, and then transition slowly into beautification by using diversified funds, grant funding, other governmental sources of funding, and to establish that as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll do my
Donicia?
best
Yeah.
to answer this question. I am not a policymaker. As a city clerk, I am an administrator. I just happen to be an elected official in the city. But as your elected city clerk, what I can do if with the Measure M monies that is promised to our community is work with the on the staff level, be a part of the steering committee to ensure that projects are being brought forth to the city council that is equitable for the entire city. I come from communities as in my capacity as a deputy city clerk where they offer community-based budgeting. I think that a project such as Measure M would be a great opportunity to engage the community with community-based budgeting for that funding. You as the residents can decide which projects would be more beneficial for the community, or at least have some input with respect to where you believe those funding should be placed. And as your city clerk, I can ensure that public hearings are noticed, that you get the information to know when and what time to show up and how to engage. I'm right now working on a portal with the Granicus system that allows us to do the video streaming so that you can engage from your front door, from your computer screen. You can make comments to the city council about projects that are being proposed. And Measure M is a great example of that. So as your city clerk, I can help administer those funding in a way that's equitable for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate Luis Diaz, your turn.
Yeah, I think I resemble or represent a lot of those remarks. I think that was very eloquently put. But I'm a very serious advocate for transportation, a system similar to the Los Angeles DART. I would go several steps beyond that and make it affordable and possible to bring the DART into residential neighborhoods, making it easier access for our business community without having to drive personal vehicles and deal with traffic and other related issues. I think Measure M is a very good component to help with our infrastructure and those type of issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jim Deere?
Yes, this question requires much more than a minute to answer. So I will stay as long as you need me afterwards to answer details of this Measure M question. It's a half-cent sales tax that was passed by the voters in 2016. And similar to Measure R, its purpose is transportation only. And an advantage of Measure M is that it will be used in a more broad spectrum than Measure R. So Measure R is for relieving traffic issues. That's what it's for. Measure M can be expanded, but it's restricted funds. It can't be used for maintenance or beautification of streets. It has to be used for improvement of vehicle traffic and vehicle goods movement and individual car movement. That's the only thing it can be used for. So through the South Bay Council of Governments, I served on that many years. That is where most of the funding will come from. The question talks about local return. Sure, we may get $1 million local return, but there are tens of millions of dollars available if we do it right. If we go to the COG and we get our projects funded, we can do that with the right people on the City Council who know what they're doing. And I have that experience. This is an area where the city can benefit tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you. Alito, Santarina?
First of all, I'd like to take this minute in thanking the members of the SB COG. And particularly at this time, I would like to mention and thank the mayor of Los Angeles because when this matter was discussed in Measure M, he was there really championing the cause and explaining to us, the members of the elected officials who were at that time, as to how this is going to be spent. And my colleagues here are already kind of explained the specifics of it, but I just want to let you know that whoever is going to be sitting again as a council member in the city of Carson, just make sure that this funding is going to be run or administered efficiently by the city staff. because this is definitely money that should be spent on these transportation issues. And like one of the candidates here said, that it's, it is really very restrictive. So I want to make sure that I'm able to articulate that, because this is some kind of a funding that the city needs in terms of identifying the priorities in that area of transportation, and public safety as well. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we move to our second set of questions, and this section is about housing. So Nafis Mohammed, you're going to go first, and you have 2 minutes like everybody else. The question reads, housing production will increase supply and decrease the price of housing. How will you streamline the development of new housing in the city of Carson?
So I think that you don't want to streamline it too much, of course, because we want to ensure that we are up to code and that housing is being created properly, and that we're not just streamlining too many projects all at once. That would overwhelm our engineers, that would overwhelm our planners, and overwhelm City Hall as a whole. However, we do want to increase these projects, and we do want to increase the speed in which these projects are completed, because waiting years and years to get housing for people is absolutely abhorrent. And we can't continue to let our residents or the citizens of California as a whole go without housing and increase the homelessness issue. So I think that to streamline these processes, we need to work with trusted developers who we know can develop these housing and can do it properly. We also want to open it up to smaller developers, so we have a lot more diversity of development and we can get it cheaper, and we're not just going with the larger, more expensive ones. Ultimately, I think that it's about taking on what's best for the citizens and putting in the work that they need. I'm definitely here and willing to put in the work for our citizens and ensure that they have proper housing that's both safe and affordable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Sherma Henderson, you're next.
This is an extremely important issue to me. I actually have homeless family living in the city of Carson, and so I understand how having affordable housing and accessible housing, how much of a significant issue it is. I think development, I'm very excited about the development projects that are happening in Carson, and at the same time, we have so much land that's available to be developed, and I'd love to see housing come out of that. In terms of streamlining the process, we need to take a look at the red tape. Once I'm in office, I will give an in-depth analysis and overview of what's going on and any restrictions that are in place and whether or not those restrictions are necessary and what's our capacity to alleviate some of those restrictions to make sure that we have housing being developed at a more sufficient or an increased rate. I think it's also important to look at the types of housing that's available and what would make these different units appealing to people. It's about access, but it's also about attracting people to our city and having more creative housing for folks. I look at some of the senior housing that we have. I look at the mobile homes that we have. I love that there are a variety of options. I love the newer developments that are coming into play, but there are also places that could use a little TLC. So I think if we have a long-term plan, we look at our housing needs, we determine what's insufficient. I think sometimes we have lofty ideas, but I want to know what is needed in Carson. How many people are insufficiently homed and housed? How many of our homeless population are folks who are there or outside by choice, and how many of them are outside by necessity? So those are the kinds of things that I would like to look at and then get with developers and my fellow council members to determine what's the best direction to go and how can we make the process more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Donicia, candidate, you're next.
I'm going to eloquently yield my time to Mr. Diaz.
You can pass, but you can't yield your time.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Yes, affordable residential housing is near non-existent in our state, and this includes Carson. The city must partner with many of our nonprofit organizations and collectively work together to develop funding utilization of vacant properties that we have in our city. In respect to streamlining, I would advocate that, yes, we need to bring stakeholders to the table and to have some transparency as how we promulgate or have policies that address the streamlining and this crisis that we have in our housing development. Thank you.
Thank you. And you did it without her time. Jim Deere, you're next.
Thank you. Like transportation, housing is a very essential part of a city government's process. And I must say, again, I have a great deal of experience in this. The first housing development on the Carson Street corridor was the Gateway City Center. 87 apartments designed to be affordable for senior citizens. They had 1,300 applicants for 87 apartments. One of the apartments went to the manager, so there's really 86 available. That's indicative of how important a city should focus on housing. All types of housing, from affordable to market rate housing. And we in Carson have about 79% of our housing units are single family dwellings. So that's actually an advantage for our city. But it's important to have other types of housing as well. So as a city council, hopefully I get elected, I can work with the other city council members for a master plan of housing, because we have infill housing going on. You might notice housing starts around the city of Carson where there's a vacant lot. Housing is put on that lot. Or maybe there's a deep lot with one house and they may tear that down and build 7 houses. You know, that works as long as you have a plan, because you can't overpopulate an area unless you have transportation that will facilitate that. You also have to have parking issues. So it's very important that the master plan detail exactly how the housing can be brought forth. And it's better for the contractors and the developers if they know the rules ahead of time. It's better for the contractors and developers if they know what we want, and they know that they cannot just go to the council members and try to talk them into something. That's not the way a city government should work. Thank you.
Alito?
Thank you very much, and whoever asked that question is right on target. First of all, I just want to let you know that the ones that are existing, not been developed already, and the ones that are coming to be developed, really we made sure, or I'm a part of the team that says this kind of development is excellent, is because it is providing some affordable housing for the people who need to be occupying that. And one thing that I would like to highlight at this time is, and also championing our mobile home park residents, because that is a form of affordable housing that our people should not be denied. I'm very, very sure that many of you are aware that, you know, there are some moves to make sure that these mobile homes will be converted into, for the benefit of the park owners. No way that that's going to happen, because we are looking at affordable housing, and that is very affordable to our citizens. And there are many of our people there who live in mobile homes. And I have the record show that I have championed that for over 10 years already, taking care of our mobile home park residents. And simply because this is the answer, it is because that is a very, very good source of affordable housing. I wish I had more time to explain, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alito. Ramona, you're next.
Well, poll after poll show that housing is one of the top 3 issues that we have, even in Carson. We have about 100 vacant lots that we could use to develop, to generate with the city to put housings on there. They could be used as housing projects. I would introduce motion to expedite the development of these vacant lots, and because these lots are draining the resources of the city of Carson. If we use it and if we put houses on it, it's going to increase our income to the city. We have also done down the street is the Veterans of Housing. We have the Colony Housing. We across the street from Carson, we have approved the housing. I think there's 350 apartments that are coming in. So we are working on the housing issues. We do have low income, especially with the veterans and the art gallery that's coming in, the art houses, art apartments that are coming in for art students. So I have approved all those and worked with everybody. So I know that the issues on housing is a problem. Thank you.
Mona and all candidates. We now move to another section, the land use. And the question for you, Sharma Henderson, to start is the following. The remodel of an existing 19,800 square foot building at the Southway Pavilion Shopping Center will accommodate a new multi-tenant retail food center to include Norm's, Chipotle, Jersey Mike's, and Smashburger restaurants. This is the question. Do you support development like this? And how can we bring more restaurants to Carson?
Well, hats off as a potential elected and hat on as a resident. Yes, I do support it. Hat back on as a potential elected, I would support it as well. We want to be able to enjoy our city. You know, there are lots of amenities in other cities around us that we will go to because we don't have those amenities here in Carson. So absolutely, I support mixed-use properties and that type of development. I think that there are people who look at, you know, different companies that look at Carson and they don't think that we have the numbers to be able to maintain certain types of restaurants and grocery stores and such. And one of the things that I like about Carson is that it's not just about who lives here. It's about people who work here, people who travel through here, and those numbers matter as well. And so we do have a lot of our neighbors who work in Carson, who shop in Carson and spend money in Carson. We really need to get a grasp on the data to be able to demonstrate to these different companies that we will be able to sustain and give them the type of revenue that they would want by bringing their restaurants here. I think it's a numbers and a data issue for them to be able to understand that while you look at who lives here, it's also about all of the other stakeholders who spend time here. And that's one of the great things about our city and where we're located, the freeways that we have surrounding us and the other neighboring cities. There are a lot of folks who travel through Carson, who stop and shop in Carson, and we need to be able to make that point to articulate to these different restaurant owners that we will be able to have successful revenue for them should they make their home here.
Thank you so much. Donisa, you're next.
She's going to defer to Mr. Diaz.
We got the rules, though.
Yes, I support the development. Across the U.S., many shopping malls are failing, and only way to keep them vibrant is to have a variety of outlets. Food courts are okay, however, we should think outside the box and attempt to bring high-end dining facilities to our city mall, also standalone establishments. Carson is lacking in one major area, and that is to make it easier for small business to navigate the difficult path of being able to secure all permits necessary for small business to open. So I've kind of prepared my short remarks rather than just ramble on. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Jim Deere?
Thank you. This is a question I'm going to answer specifically and then in general. Specifically, that development where Sears was located is going to be a Burlington store and apparently several other stores. The question talks about some restaurants that already exist, so certainly I support them to be in business. So I just support this development that's in this question. But in general, land use, I served as a city council member for 3 years before I was elected mayor of the city of Carson. I had the opportunity as mayor to outline a very detailed economic development strategy and a public safety plan for the city of Carson. And it involved bringing in new restaurants and other amenities. In other words, when I was first elected, there was very little reason for people to get off the freeway in Carson unless you lived here or worked here, with the exception of the IKEA store and the university. So I wanted to change that. I worked closely with the Chamber of Commerce, with my fellow elected officials, with staff, and through the private sector to help bring restaurants. As a council member, we tried to get a Red Lobster to come to Carson, and they basically said no. Not enough rooftops was one of their answers, and other ones that don't have the economics for it. So the thing I'm proud of is I brought forward a Chili's restaurant. Once Chili's restaurant opened, other restaurants looked at Carson for a place to do business. Because this Chili's in Carson, 80% of the employees were Carson residents, like the StubHub Center, many Carson residents employed there. And basically, it was very successful. It's number 1 or 2 in the chain every month, still to this day. Very successful. That is the reason we have Olive Garden and Buffalo Wild Wings and other restaurants. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alito Santarino.
Thank you, son. Thank you so very much. The question is how. So I would like to be more specific in terms of letting you know the hows of it. First of all, I would say to our prospective business people, particularly interested in giving us more restaurants, is to assure them that the public safety is well taken care of here in the city of Carson. Number 2, that transportation services are definitely a priority here in the city of Carson. Those are, a couple of things that will really, really entice them to come. Number 3, also to say that the fact that the needs of the family-oriented restaurants, definitely we have that in Carson. But let me tell you something that is also coming to Carson, and I have a good handle of it, something like on 213th and Avalon, that area there, 3 major areas, 1, 2, and 3, that will definitely be a development that will have not only offices, but restaurants. First-class high-end restaurants are being proposed there, and I have started working with them already in terms of just looking at how can we maximize the benefits that will be for the city of Carson. And also, I have proposed the building of the International Food Court, and that will rise, hopefully with God's help and honest working in terms of making sure that it happens. It's on the corner of Wilmington and Carson Street. International Carson International Food Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ramona Pimentel, your turn.
Yes, I support the development. The city needs to find a way to partner with private sector in order to redevelop and remodel some of these old buildings. We need to regeneralize and become, when the business I am so sorry, I'm just tripping over my words, generates more revenue, not only will the business be happy, but so it will bring a lot of revenue to the city. I believe we're going to get a lot of restaurants. The outlet is going up, and it kind of says if you build it, they will come. And I believe once the outlet goes up, we're going to have a lot of nice restaurants fighting to get through the doors of Carson. Thank you.
Thank you. Nafis Mohammed, your turn.
So I definitely think that bringing more business into Carson is an amazing thing, especially for the reason of sales tax. That sales tax is definitely going to benefit our budget, which is hugely beneficial. We have 2 freeways that run through Carson or run along Carson, and that means lots of people. With all of those people, not to mention the near 100,000 residents that are here in Carson, we have a lot of power to bring in new business and have that fuel the economy. So I definitely, and in that case of that specific project, I definitely support that one. And just in general, I support the entirety of bringing more business and bringing more restaurants into Carson. That's definitely something that many of our constituents want. That's something that's been mentioned to me several times, sit-down restaurants, high-end restaurants. So that's absolutely something that I would support. And as a city council member, I would definitely work to bring that into Carson. I also would like to promote local business because I believe that helping the community in that way is extremely beneficial. So promoting both local business and corporation business is incredibly important. It's going to bring in more revenue for the city, and it's going to be a pleasure to all of the constituents, all the people who travel through Carson, all the people who work here in Carson, and that's largely important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all candidates. Now we move to our another category. This is a general question, and again, 2 minutes for answering. Dionisia Aldana, you're next. And this question is in the general sections. How can the city partner with the business community, and how can the business partner with the city?
Okay, again, I mentioned that I'm not a policymaker, but as an administrator, I definitely see in City Hall and the inner workings of the day-to-day operations how we can make improvements to be more adequate in our partnerships with the community as a whole, not just for the residents, but also for our business partners. How we do that, we can streamline our business process. I know that I often hear businesses and small business partners come into the clerk's office and speak about the process in which they obtain a business license. Perhaps we can look at streamlining that process and making it more efficient. We can also look at maybe perhaps putting it, coming to the 21st century with all of our other community neighbors and put that process online where individuals can do that from home or from their businesses and not necessarily have to come into City Hall. What was the second? I'm sorry. The second part of the question was.
How can business partner with the city?
I think that the city, we operate as a 3-pronged approach. We have our residents, we have our business partners, and then public safety. I think that all of those areas should be addressed in the sense that we're all at the table, especially when policy is being decided upon and implemented. As your city clerk, I do my best to bring all of these constituents to the table. When there's community issues that may arise for a business partner, I make sure that I inform my business partners of that information, and the same for the community. I just think that it's important that we're all at the table discussing our issues and being open and amenable to change and our processes as a whole within the day-to-day operation of City Hall.
Thank you so much. Louise?
Yeah, again, I have to concur with our city clerk. I mean, she asked me earlier, am I looking at your notes? No, you're not. We're just looking at the question. But she's on point. And again, as I mentioned, creating an ombudsman position and to develop a one-stop process for business community, I think is essential. And I think to bring the stakeholders, the more the merrier, whether it's the clergy community, the business community, of course, elected officials, and our residents to have input on the process. I think it's something that needs to be done, and if I'm elected, that's what I'm looking to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jim, dear?
Thank you. Well, I would like to bring attention to the elephant in the room. The current city council is unfriendly to business. As a chamber, you know that already. These moratoriums on businesses, in the moratorium, let's say, well, we can't have any business like this. But if you come to us personally, we will give you an exemption and we'll let your business go through. What type of moratorium is that? It's a pay-to-play moratorium. It's wrong, it's bad for business, and it's definitely bad for the residents of the city of Carson. We need to change things, and change is good. Change is something that's so needed. Let me give you some example of changes. I propose today that the Carson city government contract with the Carson Chamber of Commerce to promote the city of Carson. A contract like other cities have with their chambers of commerce. We should do that together. The corporate citizens of Carson and the residents of Carson, the elected officials, the staff, all working together in unity. And I agree that the fighting and the personalities, that is a problem. So we need to stop that and look at the big picture. The big picture means prosperity and success and jobs and amenities and convenience for the businesses and the residents at the same time. It can be done if we're willing to work together. So we have to put aside this anti-business mentality that exists on the city council and be sensitive to business needs. Those are where the jobs come from. That's where the tax revenue comes from. So the residents of Carson always benefit when you have a good, healthy relationship with your business community. It's not good and it's not healthy right now. Let's change that. You as the Chamber of Commerce and the residents of Carson, we can change that by changing the city council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you please hold your applause until the end of the session? Alito, you're next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. Please let us be careful of what we say this in public. We say in public. Be misunderstood. Right now, I'm just holding here some facts and figures. 75 new businesses have opened in Carson. These new businesses employ 3,400 persons. All of these, 32 new restaurants, 18 new barbershops, and so on, and beauty salons, 38 new medical offices. Oh, my goodness. All right. Question. How are we going to make it here in the city of Carson and retain that word business partners? I'm looking at this. Treat them like real partners, but making sure that the rules and regulations in choosing them are followed by really picking the lowest and responsible bidder. Second, making it sure that it is really competitive and honestly you are really telling them the truth about what is to expect and to be expected here in the city of Carson if you want us to be business partners. Also, cut red tapes. Also, maybe think about giving them some kind of tax incentives. There are just so many ways by which we can creatively keep on enticing our business partners and treat them like business partners. So I have mentioned here all of these already. These are facts. You can look at, you can consult with our city clerk and look at the records. These are not just created. So to say that this city of Carson is very business unfriendly, oh my Lord. I don't think that it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alito. Can you please hold your applause? You'll get plenty of opportunity to thank them, and we're so grateful for their ideas and work. Ramona Pimentel, your turn.
Yes, I support private-public partnerships. Unfortunately, the city does have a history of not working well with the private sector, being at odds with them, and as a small business person and owner and and chair of the Planning Commission, someone who has volunteered throughout the city, I will bring a unique perspective to ensure that private-public partnerships are fair and successful with everybody involved. I also would propose to have a joint committee with the city and the Carson Chamber of Commerce to include 2 council members and the chamber to meet at least once a month or quarterly so that we could go over issues and be beneficial to the city as a whole. Because if we are together, we do well, the businesses do well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mohammed Nafis, your turn.
So, first of all, I want to stress that this is a partnership. So, and I also want to stress that I'm not looking to dwell on the past. I know that in the past, the private-public partnerships have, there are a variety of opinions on that. I'm not looking to dwell on that. I want to move forward and dwell on the future. So moving forward, I want to stress that this is a partnership and we are equal partners, both the city and the businesses that we work with. And in working with those businesses, that's an amazing thing. Having those partnerships and having business have a say in our city is really, really important because it's going to benefit our constituents. The constituents like the business likes the city, and then the city loves our constituents. That's just the iron triangle we have here in the city of Carson. So I definitely think that that's really, really important, and we want to continue to promote that and continue to promote good relationships and good partnerships with our business here in Carson. I definitely think that business has a huge impact on our issues here in Carson, and we want to ensure that our regulations, our rules in choosing proper businesses that are going to affect our cities properly and positively, that are going to be good promotions for our communities is extremely important, and that's what we want to continue to do moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Sharma Henderson, you're next.
Partnership is key. One of the things that I think that our current council forgets sometimes is that our business community, they're stakeholders too. And that in order for us to be successful and to thrive as a community, we have to work together. You know, a lot of us in this room, we watch some of the council meetings and cringe. I know I got tangled up in some of the banter personally and had to return to council to clarify my lack of an attack on a business because we were basically seeing things from the same perspective. But sometimes council meetings are used to manipulate those relationships between the city and business. And so as much as we would like to think that Carson is friendly with our businesses, they're friendly with some and not so friendly with others. So I think we have to acknowledge that because that's the truth and that's what people see from the outside looking in. We have to work together and we have to do that respectfully and strategically. We need to know as a council what the needs of the businesses are. We need to know what are the businesses' interests in the community and supporting the community. And guess what? When they support the community, when they give funds to help with activities and events and infrastructure, they should be acknowledged. You know, I take personal issue with the float. You know, I think that we could have used that money on other things, but I'm still wondering who gave the money. They said business, but we don't know which ones. You should have been acknowledged for your contributions. Why isn't that happening? We cannot just dip into their pockets and not acknowledge their contributions. We have to be respectful. We have to be able to say we need each other. We need their revenue. We need their businesses to succeed. We need for those who manage property to be able to attract people to the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of you. The next section is, again, 2 minutes. And the question that you all have to answer is about housing. Luis, you are the first to answer it. The question is this: in what ways can the city work to solve the growing homeless crisis?
Thank you. Homelessness issues are not only confined to here in the city of Carson. Many of our cities in California have taken a variety of approaches on this issue, and many with great success. I would first commission a study of the cities that have developed successful homeless programs and build from there to establish some priorities or a strategy, a plan for the city of Carson. As I stated, it's very widespread. and it's permeated throughout the state of California and elsewhere. So again, I think it's trying to identify what led to those crises, issues, circumstances, and reach an approach by bringing stakeholders again together, experts in the area, as well as having all the data in order to address it properly here in our city of Carson. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Jim Deere, you're next.
Thank you. Yes, this is a very serious problem, the homelessness, and it's getting worse and worse for all parties. I own a home in Carson, and near my house there's a lot of homeless people because I live on 219th and Figueroa Street. And there's homeless living along the freeway, a large number of homeless individuals. Some of them have mental health issues, maybe a third, but most of them are people who just had bad circumstances in their life. And I'll tell you one thing, getting a home for homeless persons is very difficult. I actually have a couple friends that recently became homeless in the past year, no fault of their own. And I work with the system to try to get them a place to live in an affordable housing. It was so complex, so difficult. It's no wonder a person who is homeless can't get a place to live. It's really amazing how the bureaucracy doesn't work for the people that are homeless. Now, the homeless issue is something that affects our property values. It affects our quality of life. It affects everyone. So you can't ignore that. It's something that needs our attention, and the city government should take a very proactive role in helping homeless people get housing. And most of the homeless individuals would be very good tenants or even property owners if they had the circumstance change. We need to change the circumstance. And what I mean by that is we need to build more housing, because there's such a shortage in California of housing. Rents are going up, making it even further out of reach of the homeless individuals. Some homeless people have jobs, they're living in their cars, they simply don't have the money to get a place to live. We need to change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Lito Santarina, you're next.
Thank you very much. I have to be honest with you and report to you that in working with the PATH people, PATH, Los Angeles, we already have an existing subcommittee that is in addressing this problem of homelessness. And I want you to know that the Sheriff Department, under the leadership of Captain Jason Skeen, really has done tremendously in terms of making sure that the homeless people that we have here, unfortunately, are well taken care of. And the subcommittee that I belong also and we're working on in identifying some homes that or centers that we can really refer these people to go there and at least get some have some decent food and some take care of themselves in terms of health issues and things like that. So I am just reporting to you that there is a subcommittee. Carson is not really blinded really, the city of Carson really takes this problem very seriously, and we are doing something. And we will continue, of course, to be open-minded in terms of getting more suggestions, because we don't have the monopoly of ideas. You know, we need some suggestions from you, the folks who, like us, we care. And colleagues and my colleagues in the city of Carson, we are unanimous in making sure that we will work hard in order to address this problem of homelessness in Carson, in collaboration with people in Los Angeles and some other neighboring cities. Thank you, and that is true. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alito. Ramona is your next.
Okay, at the council meeting on Tuesday, as you remember, Measure H was passed by the people for a 4% tax for the County of LA for 10 years. So Carson received a $35,000 grant in February to contract with shelter partners and develop a city plan. I know the Board of Supervisors approved $9 million in funding for the city to implement specific components for the homeless plan. Carson will be eligible for $300,000. I personally have not reviewed the plan since it happened on Tuesday, but the City Council voted on Tuesday to proceed in that direction. I know we need a lot more than $300,000 to help our homeless, but it's a start in one direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. Nafis Mohammed, you're next.
So first of all, I just want to acknowledge that Carson has done amazing to take initiative in this very large, big issue that's affecting all of California. Our entire state is trying to tackle this issue, so I really think Carson's done an amazing job in getting on the bandwagon early in starting to tackle this large issue. We have, the Veterans Housing Complex, and we are starting to bring in affordable housing projects that are going to benefit the homelessness issue. But if I'm elected to City Council, this will be a #1 priority for me. This absolutely ties into public safety, which I'm absolutely an advocate for. And I know that a lot of times homeowners and such will say that if we have a lot of homeless, then the city's not safe. But in addition to that, I want to point out that for all of our constituents that are living on the streets or living in their cars, they are also affected, and they are not safe out there or living on the streets or living in their cars and such. That's not a safe situation for them. And we definitely want to bring more housing in and assist them because being homeless, this wouldn't be a safe issue. That wouldn't be a safe state of being or living for them. And so we definitely want to address this issue and address it swiftly. To ensure that our constituents and our communities are safe for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed Nafis. Sherman Henderson, you're next.
These are the types of issues that I like to sink my teeth into. I have 25 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. And one of the things that's different about Carson is that we really don't have any single entity providing human and social services in the city. We don't have a nonprofit hub to provide those services. And really all that we have at the city level is more of a referral type service through the Human Services Department. So when we're looking at the homeless population and we're looking at things on how to address it and prevent, we don't have any existing resources to be able to meet their needs. The first thing that we need to do is make a distinction between homelessness and a lack of housing, but also issues with vagrancy that's disrupting the operation of local businesses. I know that's been a huge issue for a lot of local business owners. Looking at homelessness, a lot of times people make mistakes dealing with vulnerable populations by assuming what their needs are. We really need to get out there and get to know the folks who are living on the streets in Carson and figure out what their needs are, which percentage of them actually have homes, because some of them do have places that they can go, which percentage of them is it a employment issue and a lack of funding, which percentage of them are having mental health issues. And speaking of mental health, I think one of the things that we need to do is have preventative services available. The onset of mental health disruption is typically around the college-going years. We need to have services available for parents and for individuals to get that type of help and support. We're part of the South Bay Coalition to End Homelessness, but so far that's only yielded the homeless count that takes place every year. There are a lot of grant funds and monies out there. Cities cannot pay to meet the needs of their homeless populations alone. We need to get money to provide multifaceted services for this population with compassion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma. I appreciate it. Donicia, are you going next?
Homelessness is an epidemic, people. To be honest with you, we're all 2 paychecks away from being homeless. It's a real issue, especially in the state of California. And all 3 agencies, the state, the county, and the municipalities need to come together and come up with a concerted solution. A city all by itself cannot come up with a solution to solve the problem. Every city is saying, not in my back door. Then that leaves the county to solve the problem. And then the county says, we don't have the funding for this issue. A lot of folks don't know, but I advocate for New Image Homeless Shelter because I was once homeless. Homeless looks like me, looks like you. It's not just the mental ill any longer. It's folks that are working every day that can't afford market rate rent, living in their cars. It's an epidemic. And the only way that we can repair or eradicate this epidemic is for all three agencies to come together and look for a concerted effort and streamline those fundings all the way down to the cities, and that we're all working collectively together with the same approach. Because if every city have a different approach, all we're doing is pushing the homeless epidemic to the next city and to the next county. We're not solving the problem statewide. We have RV parking. We have homeless fathers with children. We have homeless mothers with children. But the system is not addressing all of those different issues. As your city clerk, I want to work with those agencies, bring all three of these agencies together to talk about a system effort, a system solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis Garcia. Aldana, this concludes our this category, and we move to another category, land use. And Jim Deere, you're next. This is the question. How can the Carson communities, private and public sectors work together to fund the community's future infrastructure needs? Do you support private-public partnerships? Thank you.
Let me answer the second question first. The answer is yes. Public-private partnerships are the way of the future because the economy and the budget of the city of Carson, the budget of the state of California, and the budget of the United States demands it. So how do we do it? Well, you do it by finding the right partners. And the Carson Chamber of Commerce certainly is a venue to sort out partners to do business with. Let me give you an example. This hotel right here. It's best for the city of Carson for this hotel to be busy, to have lots of customers, to be prosperous, to hire people, to pay taxes to the city like they do. So what can we do? Well, I'm very proud to say that I'm the creator and founder of the Carson International Sculpture Garden, which unfortunately only has one sculpture so far. Hopefully we'll have 35 sculptures eventually, hopefully in our lifetime. And that sculpture garden is across the parking lot from the hotel. Well, not just does that bring public art to the city, but it's an economic issue. It brings revenue to the city. It brings people to the city. It brings customers to the hotel. So why don't we look at every aspect of the business of the city of Carson and look how we as a city can facilitate, can be sensitive to the business needs, that we have our interest in the prosperity of the businesses. That's how you gain good partners. You gain good partners by finding people that you can work with, people that really have a project that they want to propose for the city that will be a win-win situation, a win for the residents of the city and a win for the business. So we should be very proactive, much more proactive, though when I was in office, we were quite proactive in public-private partnerships. Thank you.
You so much. Elito Santarina, that's your next question.
Very short statement that I would like to say, and it's a proposal that I am going to pursue and make sure that it is going to be implemented. The issue calls for a very specific or some specific plans as to how this can be achieved. Private-public partnership, I will propose, and I'm highlighting here, once or twice a month or every quarter, a meeting of coming from both sectors, private and public people, to make sure that the agenda items that will be discussed will definitely be implemented. Now, a set schedule, quarterly meeting, okay, and talk about how we can help you and how we can help. We can use other public funds and expertise in order to work with private and vice versa. So that, I believe, will be a good approach in order to say that in Carson, this public-private partnership is really a reality that is happening. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramona Pimentel. You're next.
Well, I answered that about the, yes, I believe in private-public partnership. I think it's going to make Carson grow. And at this point in time, this is what we want. We've had 50 years, and our next 50 years should be fantastic. We should be the come-to city when people come into town. We're going to have the stadium. We would like them to stay here. You know, their overnights when they're going to the games and stuff. And we're going to have a lot of things. We're going to have the outlets going on, and we'll have better restaurants. And I know up north they want a market. We're still working on that, and hopefully we get that in the north part of town. But I believe working together with the chambers, that can be accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. Nafis, you're next.
So I've already stated that I definitely believe in public-private partnerships. That partnership is really valuable to the community. I definitely think that being the best will attract the best. And what that means to me is essentially if we have clean rules and regulations and businesses know that here we have good positive relationships with our partners, they're going to come, and not the shady business, not the ones that are looking to violate our rules and regulations, but the ones that are looking to follow them and ultimately benefit our communities. That's what we're going to attract going forward, and that's what I would like to promote. Coming to Carson, I would like to attract those businesses. I also think that promotion of the community is really, really important. We have here in Carson all these residents, and some of them have business ideas. Some of them wish to start businesses themselves and, you know, connect with connect their private business with our public sector. I think that allowing the process of getting permits for business and all of that is definitely really important. They should all know that process and be able to get through that process with ease so that they can partner with us in the ways that they would like, because ultimately our community members trying to partner with us are going to be our best partners. They're going to already know our rules and regulations, and they're ultimately going to be for benefiting our community because they live in our communities. They're affected by it. So that's what I would love to promote and ensure that those partnerships are positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Nafis. Sherman Henderson.
I absolutely support public and private partnership. I'm also a person who's about actionable change. I think a lot of times we talk about things in terms of ideas and concepts, but we really need to look at actionable change. I want to also look at data, research, what other effective strategies are taking place in surrounding cities that are similar to ours. We have to use that existing brain thrust to give us some outside of the box ideas about how we can strengthen our public and private partnerships. We have lots of businesses, a variety of businesses. We have small businesses, we have corporations, we have developers, and we have a thriving city. We can get together and generate ideas to make unique changes in how people look at public and private partnerships. Those things will allow the businesses to be able to attract better employees. It will allow the city to be able to attract residents, and we will be able to be a model for other folks. Now, I'm excited about the possibility of working in partnership with local businesses because that's something that I think needs to be improved in our city. And I also think that if we come down and we sit together at the table and not just committee after committee, but really just sit down and have some real idea building sessions and come with outside of the box thinking, not cookie cutter concepts, but something creative. Right now, I'm just excited about the possibility of coming up with those kinds of ideas. I think we have so many resources. We have a rich city full of resources that we could be able to come up with something new and then model that for other cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma. Donicia, you're passing. Louis?
Yes. I have always supported public and private partnerships. I have been working tirelessly in argument against Prop 6 And our infrastructure issues can and will be addressed by keeping our gas tax in place. But in relation to some of the thoughts or ideas or what's being spoken, past 30 years I've been a labor leader, representing over 7,100 members, and I'm very proud of the fact that I've maintained a strong working relationship with those business partners to make sure that they have sustainable jobs, middle-class jobs, good-paying jobs for the workers. And that's what I would advocate. I think that's part of the partnership with all business here in the city of Carson. And again, I also want to thank the Chamber, and I think it's long overdue to involve the stakeholders here, not just come up with ideas or say nice things. 14 years, 12 years is long enough. We need new leadership here that does embrace and does not just talk but walk the walk, that we need to collaborate with all the stakeholders to make sure that we promote this city with our business partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This ends the first part of our questions. Now we'll move in to those of the audience. Again, I'd like to ask you very much to hold on your applauses. And we have a lot of questions. So some of them are directed specifically to specific individuals. Your time is about 1 minute. Would that be okay? It's okay. If you have any cards, there are some people on the side. Please give it to them. So this question is for Jim Deere. Transparency is important in an open government. First is, why haven't you filed your 460 campaign statements? And the second one is, what are you hiding?
I'll answer the second question first. Not hiding anything. I have a long history of always reporting on time, and I think there was a delay this time, but it's a minor delay. And when you see the reports, you'll see that my funding comes from family and friends primarily. There's some business funding in there, union funding as well. I was endorsed by the Longshoremen's Union, for instance, and they gave recently $2,500. But in the last 90 days, you know that you're required as the elected official to file a 497 form. And that 497 shows any donation of $1,000 or more. All of those forms are filed, and we file a copy with the city, and the filing goes directly to FPPC, and then a copy also goes to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Deere. This question is directed to Louis Diaz, and it specifically states, what is your position on how the city of Carson uses outsourcing for their city resources and/or jobs?
Well, first of all, I would not be in favor of any outsourcing of skilled services or jobs that are being performed by city employees here in our great city. I think that they've earned their seniority, they've earned their merit by their hard work that they do. So I would advocate against outsourcing any type of work that we have here that's currently being done by our union represented employees by AFSCME. Not in any way in support of that, and also support project labor agreements here in our city for the future that are built by union labor, that are built right the first time, on budget and on time. Thank you.
This question is to all. The charter proposition, Proposition California, raises council salaries from about $25K to $75,000. This is strain on the cost of running the city and the taxpayers. why do you then favor the charter proposition California, PropCal? So the salaries, there is an increase of salary, the council salaries from $25,000 to $75,000. That's what they, can you comment on it?
Can I clarify some misleading statements with respect to the salary? If you look at the section, I want to say it's section 805. I haven't committed all the sections to memory, but the compensation section of the proposed charter states that the council member's salary plus benefits will be set at the HUD median income for a family of 4. When you look at the table for the family of 4 HUD median income, that amount is $77,500. But the charter says that that's salary plus benefits. So we're referring right now only to salary. Right now, the council salary is set at $22,000, but that does not include their benefits. So if you look at what their benefit cost is loaded along with their salaries, and that's a true summation of what their salaries are. So I want to explain to the residents that when you say salary and what the charter is proposing is apples and oranges. So be clear about that. It's salary plus benefits. Right now, that $22,000 figure that is being thrown out there is only a salary.
Other question?
Sure.
Thank you very much, Madam City
Alito,
Clerk,
go ahead.
for that explanation.
Alito, you wanted to comment, or was just a compliment?
Oh, that's a compliment.
Thank
which
you so
is
much.
because
Jim,
that's
you had
something
Jim Deere.
has to be explained to the people because there's.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jim Deere, you have a minute.
Sure, certainly. Unless the salary's been increased, the council members get paid $20,000 a year currently, and there's about $8,000 in business expenses, what it's called, like an auto expense and other businesses. So the mayor gets paid $22,000 a year, 10% more than a council member. And it would go up to, as the city clerk mentioned, she's correct, over $77,000. Well, how much of a percentage increase is that? Is that like over 300% increase? So in other words, Measure CA is a veiled, not so well veiled as of today, a veiled attempt to raise the salary of the council members. 3 times the amount of money that they're getting now is what they'll get if the charter passes. And, you know, that's another reason to not be in favor of the charter. But there's other reasons as well. We'll go into that later on, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me ask this question very briefly from each one of you. The question reads from the audience, on almost every council agenda, there is an item asking for approval to hire a consultant. Why does the city use so many consultants rather than have staff do the job? Ramona?
No,
Excuse me.
I thought we were on the other question. We're not going to finish that?
I took the decision to move to another question.
Okay.
Okay. Huh? Yes. My quick answer to that, and this is, I think mine is a valid answer, is saying that in the wisdom of the mayor and council as a body, we said, okay, this consultant is very much needed simply because we want to make sure that that project is going to be beneficial and every angles of the issue will be looked at and examined. So therefore, I'm not undermining the our staffs or our city staff's ingenuity or capabilities, but we simply want to say that this consultant, whoever she or he is necessary in order to do a good job, but not necessarily to say for every kind of work we need a consultant. Please let us understand the issue, the quality of work. That's what we want, and I am applauding our staff because generally they are very, very competent. Thank you.
I would just like to respond that I don't believe in every case we need to hire a consultant to do the studies that city staff has already done or can do. I know that with the downsizing of staff, they're already inundated with all the projects that come before them, but I don't think it's necessary to have a consultant each and every time. That's just money going to waste.
And Nafis?
Just to make a brief comment on that, I agree that, I appreciate that the City of Carson does take the time and care to hire a consultant and ensure that that projects are researched before, going into them. However, I don't think that it's necessary with every single measure and every single project that we try and pass. So I think that going forward, we definitely want to check and make sure that if it's not necessary to have those consultants hired, we don't want to waste that money. We don't want to continue to check and check and check. We can just get the project passed and move forward with it. Thank you.
Anyone? Let me go back to Jim?
I'll answer that question as well. First of all, we should have a minimum number of consultants working with the city staff. Carson has the maximum number, meaning they constantly are hiring consultants to do the work of the city employees. That's wrong. It wastes taxpayers' money. And, some of the consultants have the contracts going through the city attorney's contract. And city attorney's fees, when I was the mayor and the chairman of the redevelopment agency, I think only 1 or 2 years did it go over $1 million in expenses for both redevelopment and for city government. The year I left, it went up to $3 million in legal fees. The year after that, it went to $13 million in legal fees. A lot of that is consultants' fees. Something's amiss in City Hall, and you as a Chamber of Commerce, you as residents, you need to look into that. I'm looking into it, and I'll work with you to straighten out this waste of taxpayers' money. It needs to stop. Thank you.
Anyone else who hasn't commented on this one? Let me go back to the previous question, Ramona. My apologies. Now that we have time, I'd like to ask you if you want to comment on that, and anyone else wants to do.
I just want everybody to remember why the mayor left the position of mayor. He was to become the city clerk to raise over $100,000. See, that's what his salary was. Now that he's not, he wants to come back, and it's going to be there may be another $77,000. He says he's against the charter. I think not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona.
Anyone else wants to comment on that question? Nafis, you had okay. One last question, and
sir,
very
sir,
briefly.
You had a question. When there's a personal attack on one of your guests today, that guest should have opportunity to at least very briefly say that many times people say things that are untrue.
Ask you to respect the forum, and we'll get back to you in a second. Thank you so much. You can address that at the end of your comment. This is very briefly, if you can, maybe 30 seconds, and I know it's a big question, and it's our last question. Regarding Carson becoming a charter city, do you support this action and why? Elito, can we start with you?
Thank you very much. Positively, I'm supporting the charter city. First of all, I would like to say, officers and members of the Carson Chamber of Commerce, thank you very sincerely for supporting the charter. Thank you so much, leadership of Carson Chamber of Commerce. And the major reasons why I support this, because of the very, very important and significant issue in the city of Carson. I have never advocated, all right, nepotism, we don't like that.
Thank you so much, Ramona. Thank you.
Handling of all of them.
I also supported the charter. I was one of the persons that signed on it. I believe in the charter, public safety, environmental, Also the nepotism, not hiring family and girlfriends to Carson. There's a number of reasons why I supported it. I believe in the charter. I believe it's good. Lula Davis 10 years ago believed in it. The Civil Service Commission, Gil Smith.
Thank you. May I remind you, excuse me, can you please respect the forum? Nafis Mohammed, is your turn.
Okay.
So I just want to have it be known that my personal opinion on the city charter is not so significant because as a city council member, I'm here to represent the people, and I do not want to move forward with any project or any measure or any charter that is going to leave behind the people. I know that there are a lot of people who are against the city charter, and there are a couple people who are for it. I'm here to represent all of those people and to ensure that if we're going to have a city charter, we're going to have it the people's way. We're going to move forward into the future doing it with what the people like.
Thank you, Nafis Mohammed.
Thank you.
Sharma Anderson, thank you.
Conclusion.
Here's my lament about the charter. We already have issues in terms of perception with our government officials. It's almost heartbreaking that something that may or may not be beneficial to our city was handled in a way that bred automatic distrust. So people are making decisions not from an informed position by and large, but by opinion. And that makes me sad because there are some merits and there's things that need to be examined.
Thank you, Sharma. I appreciate it. Tunisia, your turn.
Given that I'm the city clerk and I hold an impartial office, I am not going to say whether I'm for or against the charter, but what I will say is that the charter is a living document. It will continue to change. And with any initiative, there are pros and there are cons. I just implore you as the residents to read the proposed charter, look at the benefits, look at the not so good benefits of the charter and see how that will best fit your needs as a resident and make your decision based on that. Do not listen to the rhetoric on either side. Read it for yourself. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Louis, 1 minute, please.
Yes, I'm not in favor of changing it from our current general law that's worked for us for the past 50 years. However, if adopted by the residents, I would accept it with a caveat that it needs vast improvement. As was stated, it's a living document, and I think it goes beyond just the wages. I think there are other issues in there that really need to be fleshed out and to really be considered. I attended 8 of those 11 committee meetings, and it was fast-tracked, and for those reasons, I'm not supporting it.
Thank you so much. Jim Deere.
Thank you. I'm voting no on Measure CA on November 6th. And here are the reasons. First of all, you have a charter process that should take 2 to 5 years. It was rushed to in 2 to 3 months. It changed every single week. I also attended several of the charter committee meetings, and many of the meetings had no quorum of members. And the charter proposal kept being changed by the city government every time. And that's not a way to do business. Thank you.
This concludes our second part of this forum. Now I'll ask each of the members to give us their closer comments, and this will be a 1 minute. And I'd like to start with Nafis Mohammed.
Oh.
So if I can go back to the mayor's State of the City address, I think it was a week ago now, he stated in that speech that it's time for Carson to have a new voice. It's time for Carson to move forward into the future. We are future unlimited. And hello, I'm your future. I am here to represent the people of Carson. I'm here to do what's best for us. I have the courage to do what's right. I want to represent our people and drive our community forward. I'm here to, increase public safety, increase educational opportunities, and balance our urban development. And ultimately, I want to benefit the constituents in my community. I love this community. I've grown up here. It's always benefited me, so now it's time for me to give back. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharma Henderson, can you go next, please?
So I'm not a politician. I'm a person who has dedicated her life to a career of service. If elected, I'd be a servant first and a leader who would work with you in partnership. There are a lot of wonderful things about this city. That's why we're here. That's why people live here. That's why they stay here. That's why they have their businesses here. But there's just something about Carson. And we all know that there's that little bit of something that needs to be addressed and taken care of. We need change. We don't need the same people to come back, to stay, to do the same things. We need change. We need improvement. We need to make our city better. We need to do it together, and we need to do it positively. And that's what I'm here to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma. Denise Salvania, can you go? Thank you.
Thank you. I am excited about this process, the democratic process that my ancestors have fought so hard so that I can participate in. And because I'm excited, I want to continue to serve you as your city clerk. I ask for your vote of confidence on November 6th. The 3 priorities that I plan to continue in that office is fair and equitable elections for all to participate. I think my colleagues up here would say that I did a great job in instituting that process for them. Record accessibility. I want everyone to be able to access our records in City Hall. And I want to enhance our services in the city clerk's department. I don't want to just be a paper pusher. I want to be a service provider by way of passports, notary services, deed recordations, live scan, all of the services that people need in our community. I want them to be able to come to City Hall to do that. I ask for your vote of confidence. I'm your city clerk, Danisha Galls-Aldana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anissa.
Thank you. Yes.
Louis?
Yeah, I'd just like to preface, first of all, again, the past 20 years serving on various boards and committees, and I believe that that's elevated me above some of the other folks here to have the wisdom, the honesty, the integrity, and the vision to move this city forward. Community safety is number one. Without a safe city, we never attract new homeowners or even small businesses. Balancing our city budget, this can be accomplished by bringing many more to the council table for fresh ideas and positive, eliminate many duplications, and bring an immediate halt to nepotism, hiring of family members or other, creating positions for those who are not qualified or even capable of bringing wisdom, creative thought, or loyalty to our city. I humbly request one of those 2 seats, want your vote. God bless, and I am Louis Diaz seeking your endorsement, your vote for your next city council member. It's time for a change.
Thank you. Jim Deere?
I also believe it's time for a change. The situation is that the city was moving forward until 3 years ago, and then it stalled. And it didn't stall completely because there were good things happening. I actually agree with our city clerk and that she does a very good job as city clerk. And that's important because it's an important aspect of our city. We also are spending an untold millions and millions of dollars unnecessarily as a city government. That's a waste of your money, and that's not right. But I do have a dream that the city of Carson could be a model community for America. And we can do that with our great diversity, a city that can be beautiful, safe, lots of job opportunities, clean city. That's what we want. We should all work together and strive toward that. And that's really, really important that we do work in unity as a city, because we will prosper if that happens. So please vote for me, and I will bring that voice of reason to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Deere. Alito Santarina, you're next.
Thank you very much. I'd like to publicly thank my endorsers like Congresswoman Nanette Barragan, Supervisor Janice Hahn, Assemblyman Mike Gibson, all pastors and ministers of different churches. Also, the pastor, Walter Tucker, specifically gave his endorsement to me, and I'd like to thank also the seniors and our Senator Bradford for endorsing me. And of course, I'd like to mention I will keep on and enhancing programs like public safety, which is a SFAN, S-F-A-N, very important, services to the veterans, to the artists, partnership in business, military career day that I have started very successfully. And of course, please let us thank all of these plans helping people will mean nothing if we do not continue praying, giving the invocation prior to the council meeting, because that's the thing I did to reintroduce invocation before council meeting, and I claim that way back in 2010.
Thank you, Alito.
Thank you.
Ramona, you're next. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out here today. As I said before, I believe in public safety. I want to protect our children, our seniors, our residents. I believe in economic development. And being on the chair of the Planning Commission, I would be willing to work with any developer that came into our city to see what they have to offer. And I will work hard for the city of Carson. I've been volunteering many years for the city of Carson at the parks or Dominguez Family Shelter, the Boys and Girls Club. I have always been ready to roll my sleeves up and put my hands in it and get ready. So I'm asking you, please, for your vote. My name is Mona Pimentel. Thank you.
Now, please applaud to thank them for taking the step to run for the elections. Please also, on our behalf, to thank all the organizers, Lena and everybody else who participated. And thank you for having me. And Bill, it's your charge is yours. Thank you.
Attended the event. I'd like to thank all the candidates here. I hope that we were successful in bringing together the candidates in a neutral setting and provided them with the opportunity to state their position. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you for
Thank you so much, Jim, for participating. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.